as well. And then here this morning, the vice chair, who was going to be running this meeting, let me know this morning that unfortunately his mother fell. And so he is in the emergency room with her. I asked permission from him if it would be okay if I could go ahead and run the meeting. He gave me his approval and his blessing. I looked at the rules and the law. There's nothing that prevents me from running a hearing. So if it's okay with the commission, I'll go ahead and get started and take over. Any problems with that, commissioners? All right. Well, then, with that, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Pat, would you be so kind as to call the roll?
And Batten.
Here.
Richard McMullen.
Here.
Al Eckert, Thomas McWilliams, Rusty Moss.
Here.
Charlie Spakes. Wes Ward. Here.
That would be Alex.
Alex.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, we're going to hear from the Secretary Curry.
Hey, good morning. Been a little while since I've been able to be at one of these meetings. I want to come and officially welcome the reappointment of Commissioner McWilliams and I guess an appointment or maybe considered a reappointment of Commissioner Spakes, but neither one of them are here for me to do that with. So I guess I kind of struck out on that one. But they have both officially been appointed or reappointed by the governor recently. Just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that. And I want to take a moment to talk about something that we have as part of the Department of Energy and Environment. And some of you may remember that back in 2020, we went through an energy resource planning task force and energy resource council, and Andrea Hopkins here and Alan York and previously Larry Bingle were very involved with that. And given the weather that's coming in for the weekend, I just wanted to highlight that so that you all and members of the public may know that it's out there. So if you go to our ee.arkansas.gov webpage, you click on the link for the Energy Resources Council, and there's a lot of great information on here. We have the Arkansas Energy Disruption Preparedness Toolkit. There is a lot of real-time information on here. There's best practices for residential customers, best practices for commercial and industrial customers, also best practices for energy providers that have been put together and updated. I think, Andrew, when was the last meeting? A couple months ago, when we went December, went through and updated, make sure all the links work. So I just want to put that out there. There's real-time energy information, both from MISO and SPP. So if you want to know what's going on in terms of the power grids that both Arkansas is connected to. Uh-oh. We on the internet here? Try this one. Doesn't know if I'm human. Okay. All right, but there's lots of information on here. There's real-time power outage maps, not just for your local utility provider, but you can see, like I said, both the grids plus all the different energy providers in Arkansas, energy co-ops, et cetera, all part of this. There's a lot of great information on here. I just wanted to take a minute to highlight, let y'all know that's out there, especially in terms of the winter weather that's coming in. Also, in terms that I've been on the phone, I've received messages this morning from a lot of our different entities, energy others. They're bringing in line workers, vegetation removal workers, trying to be prepared for the storm. Also, Region 6, our regional administrator, Scott Mason, contacted me this morning to let me know that they're monitoring the situation with FEMA as well and stand by and prepared to help in any way that they can. So I think, you know, we don't know what the storm's going to hold, but we are as best prepared as we can be at this point in time. I think this is a great resource. It's also great to have these resources and connections where everybody I know is working hard. I know Department of Transportation's out there been putting the stuff out on the roads already. We had a meeting yesterday with the Liquefied Petroleum Gas Board. The governor recently issued a hours of service waiver for the driver restrictions to make sure they can start bringing in additional fuel supply to the state. So I just wanted to say, you know, everybody stay safe, stay warm. I know Bailey and I were talking about getting your milk and bread. You might still have time to order it at Walmart to deliver it because that's how we shop these days. But if you don't, you might want to stop and make sure you have your milk and bread and everything you're going to need for the storms. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of share with you what I think is great news. I know Director Taylor talked about it last meeting about EPA withdrawing their objections to several of the permits in the Illinois River watershed. That was an ongoing legal issue. I was chief counsel when that started, and then to say it no other way, that was a very broad overreach by that EPA and that EPA administration. They basically, overlisted or objected to the permits that we as the state had issued. And we were left with no other choice but to file lawsuits. They were tied up in litigation. That was kind of the point. But this year so far with both our regional administrator, Scott Mason, and EPA headquarters, Administrator Lee Zeldin, we've worked through those, we've resolved those issues. They've withdrawn their permits. I think they understood the mistakes that the previous EPA administration had made. And I can now say officially that they have both been dismissed. Both lawsuits that we filed, a few years ago have been dismissed as those issues have been resolved. And we are thankful to have an EPA administration that understands the need for states to be able to do proper planning, to properly protect assets that we have and make sure that we have clean water, clean air, and protect our land resources, but not enforcing a one-size-fits-all approach, which some of the prior administrations had tried to do. So we're thankful for that. That's a great update, not only for us and the Division of Environmental Quality and the Pollution Control and Ecology Commission, but also for Northwest Arkansas as a whole and Arkansas as a whole. So with that, I think that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have of me, but I just wanted to take a moment and remind everybody about the ERC, welcome our new commissioners. Can also welcome Commissioner Ward. He's abandoned us again and sent Alex to stand in this place, but I know she's fully capable and excited to be here as well, right?
All the Walmart delivery for.
Already? We had our milk and bread delivered like 2 days ago, so I guess we're
Good call.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Chief Administrator Bailey Tate. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary.
Next item, approval of the December 5th, 2025 commission meeting minutes.
I just have a few.
Okay.
Is that okay? Do you want to do the minutes or do you want?
You can go right now if you'd like
Okay.
to. It's up to you. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning. Sorry for going out of order there, but I would just tail in on the secretary's comments. I have to talk about the 303D list, which kind of dovetails in with the lawsuits, the NACA and Springdale lawsuits that were recently dismissed. EPA had, previous administration had leveraged those in a way to circumvent some phosphorus limits that we already have, phosphorus criteria that we have, but we have really good news. It's been at least a decade since we've been able to submit our 303D list on time, which is a list of impaired water bodies that we assess our water quality around the state every 2 years. And so along with every other state in our region and surrounding states, we've been a little bit delayed each year. It's a huge undertaking and a lot of data to collect and then later assess and go through all the proper public notice and all of that. So when Joe Martin joined our team, he's now our Associate Director of the Office of Water Quality. When he joined the team about 2020 or 2019, 2020, he set a lofty goal to have the 2026 303D list submitted on time. And I'm just really excited and proud of the whole team, the whole Office of Water Quality team, the lab, the ecologists, the biologists, the permit engineers, the whole team, and Stacy Wassel's leadership as well to get this list submitted on time. So right now it's currently out for public notice. That closes early March. And once we review any comments and address those, then we should make the April 1st deadline. And so we're really excited. We'll be one of the only states to submit on time. And so we're really proud of that. I'm just really proud of the team. So I wanted to highlight that. Also, that it's out for public comment if you'd like to look at that on our website.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioners, any questions? All right, let's go ahead, circle back to the approval of the December 5th, 2025 commission meeting minutes. Do I have a motion from the commission on approval of those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second by Commissioner Moss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item I've got are the commission reports. We've got a minute order for reimbursements and stipends. It's 2026. That should be in your package. Do I have a motion on the approval of the minute order approving reimbursement and stipends for this calendar year? Is there a motion? Commissioner Moss has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Batten has made a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item I have are public comments. I have 3 cards. I will go with the first card, Mr. Kenneth Lovett. Mr. Lovett. Morning, sir.
Good morning. I'll just put that down there a little bit better. I'm just gonna read. Everybody knows I'm a opponent of waste management, EcoVista. As of December 29th, 2021, it's been 4 years since I was seriously exposed to hazardous vapor emitted from a waste management, EcoVista. So serious, I thought I was dying. There have been 11 volatile compounds detected near the landfill that we are aware of. 4 tests were taken of the ambient air around EcoVista. 3 tests showed serious hazardous chemicals. The last test showed the same chemicals, just at lower percentages, because, in my opinion, the operation of the landfill and gas process was changed before and during the test. So ADQ goes with the last test and says everything is fine. How is this environmental protection? Got a little bit of history. The Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality began on pollution control ecology, officially established in 1971 through Arkansas Act 38, evolving from earlier commissions and becoming the ADQ in 1991 before its current form as the Division of Environmental Quality under the Department of Energy and Environment in 2019. The key milestones was 1949, the initial framework. 71 was the Department of Pollution Control and Ecology was created as a cabinet level agency, inheriting the commission's role. 91 agency was renamed the Department of Environmental Quality. 2019, under the Transformation and Efficiency Act, ADQ became the Division of Environmental Quality within the new Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment. Statement on your website, reading it from there. Established in 2019 as part of the Transformation and Efficiency Act of 2019, the new umbrella agency called the Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment absorbed the former Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, which is now named the Division of Environmental Quality and retains its function as Arkansas's regulatory body in the area of environmental protection. The regulations adopted by the Arkansas Pollution Control and Ecology Commission are the basis of the basis for DEQ's permitting, monitoring, and enforcement programs, public involvement activities, and other services. DEQ protects, enhances, and restores all natural environment for the well-being of Arkansans. We envision Arkansas with clean air, water, and land, where all Arkansans strive to conserve and protect these assets for the benefit and enjoyment of the future generations. DEQ is a respected steward of the environment, where proactive, results-oriented staff operating in a professional atmosphere inspire Arkansans to conserve and protect our natural resources. That statement, to me, does not appropriately represent ADQ. ADQ should be far ahead in the technology curve with what's going on today. Every citizen complaint that is replied to states DEQ investigated and there's no evidence of any non-conformance items. In my opinion, because the evidence is I see daily, that statement is wrong. Today, ADEQ is petitioning to revise Regulation 22. It's changed to 8 CAR PT 601304. It's the old Regulation 22. I would love to be a part of this revision, and I'd love for Tawnytown to be a part of this revision, but as I understand it, it's already written. I do not drive 6 hours to each meeting because I enjoy it. I requested that I would be allowed to attend today virtually. First told it was illegal because of Act 505 of 2025. The virtual meetings are held every day. It was explained to me that this was this commission's decision not to allow virtual because during the pandemic, all meetings were virtual. There was a number of unpleasant commenters. I'm gonna comment whether I'm here or whether I'm virtual, what's on my mind. But during public meetings, whose sole aim was disruption. There are ways to control that issue. It is a shame that because of disruption, you prefer not to have meetings virtually, as many Arkansans do not live close to North Little Rock. And I'm coming to the close. We need proper regulation in the RNG process that is growing in the U.S. You have an opportunity today to approve a process to make those changes. ADEQ has the responsibility to properly include the regulations and specifications to address every landfill and RNG plant in Arkansas. They need to do it in this petition. I hope you understand the seriousness of your job for the Arkansas public, as Waste Management is doing nothing but minimum requirements that, in my opinion, are allowed by the negligence of the Arkansas regulatory authorities by not having the proper regulations in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levitt. Mr. Levitt, hold on a second, just in case. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Levitt? Apparently not. Thank you, sir. All right, next card I have is Mark Calcagney.
Good morning. I'm Mark Calcagney, 12642 Harbor Acres Road, Springdale, Tinytown, Arkansas. Thank you for allowing me to address the Arkansas Pollution Control Commission and the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. I'm hoping Regulation 22 will add some important health items around harmful chemicals in the air and water. Today, I'm going to share with you with a doctor named Dr. Philip Landrum, his assessment of the ADQ CTE air test and a recent area Tinytown well water test that was just taken, and the results were not good. Dr. Landrum is a friend of one of our state representatives as they served in the Navy together. Dr. Landrum is an MD, MSc, FAAP, is a pediatrician epidemiologist. He directs the program for global public health and the common good at Boston College. His research examines the impacts of human health of toxic hazards in the environment. His studies of lead toxicity conducted at the CDC in the 1970s demonstrates that low-level exposure reduces children's IQ and contributes to EPA's 1975 decision to remove lead from paint and gasoline, actions that reduce lead levels by 95% and increase the IQ of all American children born since 1980. Again, he's a pediatrician. His documentation of children's exquisite sensitivity to pesticides contributed to fundamental revisions of federal pesticides legislation in the United States. The Food Quality Protection Act of 1996 is to better protect children's health. He co-chaired the Landslot Commission on Pollution and Health, which reported in 2018 that pollution causes 9 million deaths annually, and that pollution prevention is feasible, cost-effective, and saves lives. Since 2019, he has led the Monaca Commission of Human Health and Ocean Pollution. In 2022 and 2023, he led the Madero Monaca Commission on Plastics and Human Health, which documents that plastics and their chemicals harm human health at every stage of the plastic life cycle, and that children are especially vulnerable. He's a graduate of Harvard School of Medicine. He served in the Health Service Corps. He served in the Navy Medical Corps, the CDC as an epidemiologist, the chair of the Prevention of Medicine at Mount Sinai School of Medicine, and as the director of public health at Boston College. He's recognized nationally with his expertise with regard to air pollution and water pollution. And I go over through all this with his background. I've sent you all a video, a link with an email for his bio and profile, because he's not just some doctor that, just got out of school. He's got very good experience. He examined the ADQ CTE air test results, and this is his email. This here follows. This report acknowledges the main finding of the Tinytown air sampling study done in May by CTE LAC that 2 compounds, benzene and ethylbenzene, were identified as having contributions likely from the landfill. It acknowledges that another 9 compounds were also identified as having contributions possibly from the landfill. I find the classifications of most likely from the landfill, and possibly from the landfill to be subjective. It would be preferable, in my opinion, to simply state that 11 volatile compounds were detected near the landfill, and that 2 of these compounds, benzene and ethylbenzene, were detected at especially high levels. Nowhere does the September 8th report note that the well-established fact that benzene is a proven human carcinogen that is strongly linked to excessive occurrences of leukemia and lymphoma. Infants in the womb and young children are especially high risk. It is good that the Department of Energy has asked the Arkansas State Department of Health to conduct a public health assessment to better understand any potential impacts on the community. But the plain fact is that there is a health hazard there now, and it may take many years for cases of leukemia to develop in exposed children. It would therefore be wise to take measures to reduce benzene exposure now and not wait for tragedy to happen. He also examined a recent water test that was done by a neighbor, and it was very recent. It was done at the end of December, and the results got back here in January. His email follows here on this well water test. These results are very clear and speak for themselves, and this is his email, speak for themselves. They show that 3 members of the family of per and polyfluorinated substances, PFAS, forever chemicals, are present in the well water. One of them above the threshold limit and another just below the limit. As the note attached to the lab report explains, this specific set of compounds represents the fingerprint of PFAS, forever chemicals, associated with landfills, as opposed to those associated with industrial sites, airports, or military bases. What this says to me, this is him speaking, what this says to me is that Tinytown landfill is leaking hazardous and carcinogenic PFAS compounds and potentially other toxic chemicals into the groundwater in Northwest Arkansas. This is hardly a surprise, finding since most landfills eventually leak liquid waste into groundwater, because even the best, most state-of-art landfill liners eventually develop or leaks and thus become permeable. And we all know that the first cell in that landfill in the class 1 does not have a liner. That's not him speaking, that was me. And additionally, this is him, he goes on in his report, and additionally to the toxicities listed in the attached note, the World Health Organization has determined that PFAS compounds are associated with testicular cancer. Here's a link, and he has a link, and it shows the documentation of that. So in closing, I'm here today pleading and begging. I'm pleading and begging that, that you adopt something in Regulation 22 with measures to address these specific harmful chemicals in the air and in the water, like Mr. Lovett is wanting to cover. Also, please set regulations and follow through with them for health reasons. And if you have a regulation, please adhere to it, as I won't belabor the Regulation 22.203 and 22.202 about a host city must approve a new landfill or an expansion, as the host city of Tinytown unanimously rejected the latest expansion 3 times before a decision was made to expand it. What's it going to take? Death and sickness to get the attention of the state? You heard from an expert, and not just any expert, a nationally known expert, Dr. Lanigan, on his assessment in Tinytown. And I did send you all an email, with his background showing that he is definitely an expert. And I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and be safe today. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kalkaka. Any questions, commissioners? Mr. Kalkaka, I do have a question. So in reading over the report, and I don't think anyone is going to dispute, I'll just take one of the compounds that you listed, benzene. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that benzene is a known human carcinogen. The literature and the science is solid on that. I think where everybody's been struggling is whether or not it comes from the landfill. I read the report and I understand what he said, but in terms of admissibility in a trial or even in a hearing in front of this commission, there has to be a statement that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that's the standard of admissibility, that this individual, and he's an epidemiologist, correct?
Yes.
He believes that these compounds are coming from the landfill. Did I miss it? Did he say that anywhere in the report?
No, but he did say that it's very likely that it's
Yeah.
coming. So I know likely
There's
it's not
there's the
legally.
difference in terms of
Yeah.
reasonable degree of scientific certainty versus likely.
As I know, I live there. There is no other industry in that area other than the landfill. None. None.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone disputes that. But again, I'm just telling you for your benefit as well as for the residents of Tawnytown, you've got to have an expert who's willing to say to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that this stuff is coming from that landfill. Absent that, you're there.
Where do you think it's coming from?
Well, I'm not an
I
epidemiologist.
know, but where do you think it's coming from?
I don't know.
Is it coming from my neighbor's chicken house?
I don't know.
Is it coming from my neighbor's air conditioner or his heater?
I don't know. We can debate all that.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing anything of what you're saying, but from the perspective of the legal admissibility, that's all I'm trying to tell you. That's what it takes. So if you have an expert that says that, that's a different ballgame.
And then we'd have to go to court again and do all that. And the neighbors would have to come up with, thousands of dollars where you run us out of money.
I'm telling you that if you were in this tribunal or in a court, that's the standard of admissibility. That's all I'm saying, Mark.
Okay.
Anyway,
I guess with people getting sick and that's just happening and the amount of cancer that's in there, that's just coincidental. All right, I'm sorry.
no,
Thank you.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm not. I really am not. I'm just telling you that's what the standard is. And if he had said that in the report, that might be an entirely different ballgame for everybody involved.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
And I guess I want to comment too. I mean, kind of on a different topic, but you mentioned PFAS and well samples. And, we always want to be cautious on how samples are collected and handled, especially with compounds that are very easy to contaminate, right? My tie has lots of those types of chemicals, and that's one reason I don't lick it, right? But I don't know how the sample was collected. That would be one of my first thoughts before I jump to conclusions.
Understood.
Yeah, so, always interpretation, you want to be cautious and even though.
So if there's a chain of custody and how it was collected and it was a video of all that, that would probably be good. And if it was put directly into FedEx and sealed properly and that was all viewed and
Rubber gloves.
if rubber gloves were used and all that, if that was pertinent as well. Yeah,
They don't stick together.
right.
So if you contaminate it because you wore the wrong type of gloves, that would invalidate.
So if you wore gloves that geologists would wear, that would be suitable.
Well, I don't know the method exactly, but there is an EPA method that I would expect to be followed.
Understood. All right, well, I appreciate your questions and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and thank you for being part of the Arkansas department that cares about, our health and safety of our people and of our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Russell?
Good morning. I'm a little emotional today, so please forgive me if I get out of hand. Judge Moulton, please let me know, because I was up quite a bit last night. I understand that Regulation 22 is being reviewed for updates, and there may have already been done. But as you know, there were 3 air tests conducted. 2 of these air tests showed high levels of chemicals in the air. My house is approximately 200 to 300 feet from the RNG plant. We are 300 to 400 feet, I'm sorry, not feet, yards, excuse me, 300 to 400 yards from the landfill. I have a daughter and her family that lives next door to me, directly next door, and I have another daughter that lives directly next door to her, so there's 3 houses in a row. One of my grandsons was diagnosed with JIA. He has trouble with his body functioning. He has to have regular visits to Children's Hospital here in Little Rock because the one in Springdale is not adequate for his diagnosis. The grandson that lives next door to her was admitted last night, Children's Hospital. So I'm a little emotional. They did multiple tests on him. He's 5 years old. He was diagnosed at 2:45 this morning with a name that I cannot pronounce, thyroid cytotomia. This is a condition with low platelet counts, meaning your blood can't clot. His nose has been bleeding for weeks, as well as several of the other children that live down the road from us. Not just him, not just my grandson, other children that live down the road on Arbor Acres by the landfill. There's multiple citizens that have had cancer. There's multiple citizens that have had other health issues. If you go and do a Google search on this name that I can spell to you if you'd like, you will see that it is related to chemicals coming from landfills. I have neighbors that have died from cancer. I have children down there bleeding noses and other health issues. We have come here for several years now begging you guys. We've gone to court. Of course, Waste Management has money enough to outweigh us. It's not right that you're not taking care of the citizens of Tawnytown. We are part of Arkansas. What I'm asking is that you include in Reg 22, you include all the chemicals that was listed in the CTH test. I would like those chemicals added in there so they could be tested regularly. I would like to find out what's going on with our citizens that live down the road from the landfill and around the landfill, the children that's having bleeding noses, bloody mouths because of things that are in their mouths. My grandson, my daughter woke up and went to check on her son. He had blood coming out of his mouth. His face had blood all over it. That's why he had to go to Children's last night. Something needs to be done, and I don't know what else I can do. I've done everything that I feel like that I can as the mayor to protect the citizens of Tawnytown, and it doesn't seem like anyone is listening to us. But if there's something that you can do to get new laws put in, that would be a start. I know that Waste Management doesn't follow them all the time. I know that. But at least you'd have it on the books. Sorry if I got too emotional. Thank you for listening to me. I have a list of all of the chemicals that has caused my grandson's platelet counts to go low that's coming from the landfill. I have a list of them if you'd like to see them. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, any questions for the mayor? Thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody else present wish to make a comment? If not, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, petition to initiate rulemaking for 8-car part 60-1304. Mr. McAllister.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Michael McAllister, Deputy Chief Counsel for the department, here to present a petition to initiate rulemaking to amend part of what we used to refer to as Reg 22 is now more formally 8, Code of Arkansas Rules, Part 60, Solid Waste Management Rules. As you know, the legislature has passed a number of laws in the last few years about agencies having to update rules to incorporate changes in the law made by the legislature. And they have a very short timeline for that to be accomplished on. And so that is what is driving this petition for rulemaking. This morning, Act 791 of 2025 changed a number in the law. Previously, if an expenditure from the post-closure trust fund was to exceed $50,000, then it had to come before this body for review and approval. The legislature changed that number from 50,000 to $2 million. That is what this rulemaking is to do. It's to update the rule to reflect the act of the legislature. That's the only change we're making because of the expediency with which that needs to be done. This is not opening that rule up for wholesale revisions. I understand that there may be interest in other changes to the rule, but this petition is limited to the tweaks necessary to make it comply with Act 791 of 2025. You have the packet in front of you with markup of the rule changing that number. You have a minute order in front of you. Per that minute order, there will be a public hearing on this rule that's currently scheduled, I believe, for February 25th. There is a public comment period, a 30-day public comment period where anyone interested in this rulemaking can submit public comments. That closes on March 11th. If everything goes well, we anticipate being back in front of this body in April to finalize your part of the rulemaking process so we can get it to in front of legislative review as required, for timeliness. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to address them, but otherwise we would ask for approval of the proposed minute order to initiate this rulemaking and make this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. McAllister on this rulemaking? Or this proposed rulemaking? Mr. McAllister, the vice chair did ask me to ask you, what was the rationale in terms of raising it from 50,000 to 2 million? Was there a reason behind that?
Honestly, Judge, I don't necessarily have insight into the rationale of the legislature. But I think it was because expenditures from the post-closure trust fund, we've gotten to the point in time where they routinely can exceed that amount. That number had not been changed for many years, and it was just to expedite our ability to address issues from the fund as needed.
That was the assumption that I made. And what I told the vice chair was that $50,000 back in the day was probably more than sufficient. But here we are decades later, and it's woefully inadequate. So with that, commissioners, any questions for Mr. McAllister? If not, is there a motion from the commission to initiate this rulemaking and adopt the minute orders? Commissioner?
Good question.
Yes.
I'm not sure. So I read it, a couple different ways. And initially I understood, and then one of my questions really was, so what if you had a facility that was closed, and then initially in January you had $1 million issue, okay, it goes through, and then 8 months later, another issue. and it exceeds, say, 1.5, so cumulatively it exceeds the 2. So that would require us.
That's a good question, Commissioner. I'm not sure. The language of the rule as proposed says any expenditures, it's a plural, any expenditures in excess of $2 million per site from the fund for corrective action to remedy, et cetera, et cetera. So reading it that way, under the scenario you presented, I could see it would probably be prudent, if not absolutely necessary, but I think that we should come before this body and inform you of that. And seek, approval of that, because it is expenditures per site. So if you have a site, like you said, that had $1 million problem and 6 months later had $1.5 million problem, that sounds like something that ought to come before this body.
That's the way I interpret it as well, so I appreciate it.
Yes. Any other questions?
Apparently not, Mr. McAllister. I'll ask you, is there a motion from the commission to initiate this rulemaking? Commissioner Moss, you said, raise your hand initially. All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Moss. Is there a second? Commissioner Johnson, you should probably make that second. You need to get on the record here today. All right, second from Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. And then I just have quickly my year-end wrap-up. I docketed 3 items last year. One was an appeal of a notice of violation in the matter of Eaton Maury. That's still ongoing. A permit appeal in the matter of the city of Decatur. That is still ongoing as well. Both of those were docketed at the tail end of the year. And then we also had a rulemaking last month, if you recall. I'm sorry, we tried to initiate the rulemaking last month, but I believe we bounced it to this month. So those are the items that we had in front of us. If you have any questions on any of those, I'm happy to answer them. Of course, the NOV and the permit appeal are still in the process, so until I get those concluded, I really can't answer much. With that, that concludes my year-end report. Is there a motion to adjourn, commissioners?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.